Sacred Stones, Chapter 1, and this board is not new. Opus 5 played the first turn of it in a previous sitting and stopped partway through the second. So the campaign picks up mid-sentence. A castle in the far northwest, a gate to seas inside it, and green countryside between here and there. The cursor goes hunting for somebody who still has orders and stops on Seth. 30 of 30, and the strongest thing standing on this map? Seth is a paladin, which on a map like this is close to cheating. Sword and lance both, armor that turns an axe into a nuisance, and a horse that crosses half the field in the turn. One press and the plane floods blue. Claude walks the cursor 2 squares west, which sets Seth level with the man in the red cloak out on the grass. And he rides. Attack sits at the top of that menu whenever somebody is standing beside you, so it goes in without a second look. 2 weapons on the list, and Claude does not hesitate over them this time. The sword comes out, and the reason is standing across the grass holding an axe. Which is knowledge this campaign had to buy. Sword beats axe is one line in a note, put there by an earlier Claude that is no longer running, and read cold by the one playing now. And the forecast makes it academic, 21 damage against 20 health. Seth does not need the second swing. 7 coming back at 27%, which is the entire risk in this exchange, and Claude takes it without blinking. Animations are still on, and nobody has turned them off between one run and the next. So every fight in this chapter still stops the game and plays itself out in full. And the soldier is gone. Seth is untouched, and that is one enemy fewer between here and the gate. Next up is Sir Gilliam, 25 of 25, and the opposite problem. Heavy armor, an iron lance, and legs that will not carry him anywhere in a hurry. An armored knight in this game is a wall you have to push. He will take a hit from anything on this map and barely notice, and he will arrive 2 turns after the fighting started. And there it is on the board. A handful of blue squares around him, nothing red inside any of them, so this turn is just walking. Claude sends him toward the gap below the ridge, which is the way through to the western road. Not a fight, not a threat, just a body moving toward where the chapter ends. Confirmed, and he plods down to it. Item or wait on the menu because nothing is close enough to point a lance at. Quiet bit of the map, so if you're enjoying this, a leg genuinely helps. Right, the other side is about to get a turn. Every unit has moved, so the board goes over. Claude cannot press anything into an enemy phase, and one of them comes straight down the map at Gilliam. Which is exactly what armor is for. Whatever that soldier does to him on this phase, it will be small, and it puts an enemy within reach of a lance that could not chase anybody. New player phase, and the trait is visible immediately. Gilliam is on 23 of 25. 2 points, for a target that walked to him. Claude picks him up and confirms on the square he is already standing on, which keeps him where he is and opens the menu with attack on it. That is a nice piece of play, actually. Standing still is a legal move, and it is the only one that lets a unit this slow fight at all. One weapon on the list. An iron lance, 44 uses, and no decision to make about it. And the forecast is a formality. 16 damage against 4 health. That is the counter from the last phase. He swung in a wall of armor, took 16 straight back for his trouble, and has 4 points left to show for it. Done. Yilliam gets the kill, and the north of this map is quietly emptying out. Back to Seth, still on 30, and this has been the shape of it so far. 1 unit does the killing, and the other 3 walk. His range floods most of the open field, and it reaches well past the last man standing out here on the grass. Claude walks 3 squares and stops beside him. And that is the difference a horse makes on this board. Gilliam needed 2 turns to cross ground Seth covers in 3 presses. Attack again, off the top of the menu again. There is a rhythm to how Claude fights now, and none of it needs thinking about anymore. The sword comes out again, and this time Opus 5 says why in a way that is worth hearing. The forecast is where the game prints the other man's weapon, and B gets you back out if it is the wrong call. Which is exactly the mistake this campaign made last time out, and the fix is now standing in Claude's own reasoning. Look at the box before you swing. And something just changed that the picture cannot show. The Claude that chose that sword has run out, and a new one has arrived to a forecast already on the screen. So the swing belongs to somebody who did not set it up. The new one reads the box, agrees with the arithmetic, and commits to a fight another Claude had already chosen. Which is about as clean as a handover gets here. The board did not move, the plan did not change, and the fight lands on schedule. And it lands. Second soldier down, Seth still on 30. And the open field belongs to Claude. Now, Erica. 16 of 16, untouched since the chapter opened, and the 1 unit on this board whose death would end the whole thing on the spot. She is also the only one who can finish it. C's gate means Erica standing on that square in the far corner, so every step she takes is the chapter's actual progress. 2 left and 2 up, which puts her beside Seth. Claude is walking her behind the paladin, and has not let her within reach of anything all chapter. Which is the right instinct and also a slow one. She has moved 4 squares in 9 minutes, and the gate is most of the map away. Item, trade, wait. Down twice and confirm, and Erica sits down beside him without drawing anything. Her rapier has still not come out of its scabbard this campaign. It is the weapon built for armored men and mounted ones. And there is an armored man standing on the objective. The cursor goes northeast looking for the last unit with orders left, and it has to travel. Claude's 4 are spread across half the map. And there is Franz on 15 of 20, which is worth stopping on because the note this run inherited says he is on 20. The last Claude wrote that line while the screen was still white and the counter had not landed. This one read the health bar instead of the note, and the health bar was right. Franz gets picked up, and the blue spills down onto the road. Claude brings him 2 left and 2 down, in behind the others rather than out in front. A wounded cavalier kept behind the line is good sense. It also means half of Claude's army has now spent a turn doing nothing but arranging itself. And here is a menu entry that has not appeared before. Talk. Franz has ridden up next to Erica, and the game is offering the two of them a conversation. Claude takes it. Not the fight, not the advance, the conversation. And the reasoning is that a bond between two units costs nothing and is worth having. Which is correct, and it is a strange thing to watch a machine reach for. Supports in this game are two people talking, built up over chapters, and they end up worth real points in a fight. And then it plays 9 boxes of it at a text speed set to maximum by a Claude that is no longer running. And now Claude has a problem. The conversation is over, the map is back, and there is a patch of blue still glowing on it that belongs to nobody obvious. Opus 5 cannot tell whether a unit is still picked up or not, so B, to put down whatever might be held, and the screen does not change. Then L, to jump to somebody with orders left, and the screen does not change for that either. 2 presses, no information, and the clock running. This is the bit that has no equivalent for somebody holding a controller. Claude gets one still picture a turn, and 2 of them in a row that look identical say nothing at all. So Claude runs an experiment. 1 press right purely to see whether the cursor moves. Not a move, not a plan, just a question put to the board. And that is genuinely good thinking. When you cannot read the state, change one thing and watch what moves. That is how anybody works out a system they cannot see inside, and nobody suggested it here. The cursor moves, so the map is live. And now the clever part, A, which opens a menu if nothing is held, and takes a single step if something is. 1 press, 2 possible answers, and both of them are readable off the next picture. Claude has built a test that cannot come back ambiguous. Emmy answer comes back, a single step east, and a menu offering wheat. Something was held after all, and it was Franz. So the conversation left him picked up, standing there with his move unspent, and 4 turns went by before anybody knew. B takes the step back, and nothing has been lost but time. 2.5 minutes of it, 5 presses, and a chapter that did not advance by a single square. That is the cost of not being able to see the board properly. And Claude spends the recovered move properly. The cursor walks 3 squares west along the road, short of the castle and short of anything that could reach him. Or short of anything Claude can see. The castle is up the sandy path from there, and what is inside it has not been looked at closely all run. Wait, and Franz is finished. Every one of Claude's 4 has moved now, so the board goes over to the other side for the 2nd time this run. And 1 comes down the sandy path to stand right next to him. A wounded cavalier out ahead of everybody, with an enemy at his elbow and no way to press anything. This is the first moment all run with anything actually at stake, and Claude cannot do a thing about it except watch the phase run. Phase over and the soldier is not there anymore. Franz is on 15 of 20, which is exactly where he started it. He swung, and Franz swung back harder. But that same phase did something else, and it is the more important half. 3 new enemies have appeared in the far southeast corner, and the ground Claude's army has just finished leaving. Claude picks Erika up to look, and the grid shows them. 1 enemy left by the castle, 3 arriving behind. So the map has quietly turned into a race. Everything Claude owns is pointed northwest at the gate, and the reinforcements are coming from the corner nobody is watching. And Claude reads it right. Back out, leave Erika where she is, and go and find Seth, because Seth is the one who kills things in a single round. Al lands on Franz first, still carrying his wound from the last phase, and Claude cycles straight past him. Not this one. The wounded man does not get to lead the attack on a castle. And Claude is replaced for the second time this run, mid-search, between one press of L and the next. And this time the seam barely shows. 24 seconds between one press and the next, and the new one comes back with a unit selected and a direction to march in. Which says something about the note, and something about how little of this game actually lives in a player's head. Position, health, weapons, all of it fits on a page. Gilliam gets moved west, 2 squares and a bit, which for him is a full turn's work. The column is finally pointing the same way. Four units in the line on the road, all of them west of where they started, and 1 castle at the end of it with the last man in the northwest standing outside. Nothing happening for a second, so there is a subscribe button, and this chapter is nowhere near finished. Right, back to the road. L, and the cursor finds Seth still holding his orders, which Claude did not expect, and says so. He still has his move this phase after all. So the best unit on the board has a free move, and there is exactly 1 enemy in the northwest left to spend it on. Five presses committed off 1 picture, and Claude has done a dozen of these today without looking once in between. This one walks Seth right up under the castle. Move and attack in 1 turn, which is Claude committing to a fight from a picture taken before the ride even started. And Claude still does not know what is standing there. The panel calls him a red soldier, the last castle guard, 1 more body on the path. Attack, and then the weapon list, and Claude takes the time to look at it rather than confirming blind. Steel sword, 22 uses, against whatever that is. Sword taken, forecast confirmed, and the fight goes in, and the battle screen puts a name on the man. Brigade, Armored Commander, Iron Lance, and this is the boss of the chapter. Not a guard, not a straggler. So that is who has been standing outside the castle since the chapter opened. The man in heavy armor on the gate, the thing this whole chapter finishes with, and Claude has just ridden into him by accident. And Seth comes out of it without a scratch. 30 of 30 still, and Breguier is still on his feet above him. Which is the paladin doing what a paladin does. A commander with a lance is exactly the fight Seth's sword was built for. And Brege is down to 2 health. 2. One more connected hit from anybody at all finishes the boss of this chapter. Irika still has her orders, and Claude is choosing not to spend them. There is not enough left on the clock to start something in front of a commander who is still standing. And with the clock nearly gone, Claude does something deliberate. The cursor goes onto bare grass, away from Irika, because A on an empty square opens a menu instead of picking somebody up. The map menu opens. Unit, status, guide, options, suspend, end, and the hand starts at the top. 2 presses up wraps it round to suspend. Turn 4. And the note left for whoever comes next says Brege has 11 health, when the screen said 2. And the save takes it. The next one starts here,